Dedicated men and women never stop working to build, repair, improve, maintain, and operate our roadways here in Texas, and providing a safe environment for them has always been a job that's a priority for TxDOT and all of us here in our district. Drivers traveling along Texas roadways often encounter work zones that are filled with TxDOT employees and our contractors, and every day they're hard at work and most of the time only a few feet away from high-speed traffic. Driving conditions in work zones are definitely different, which unfortunately can increase the risk of traffic crashes. Last year in 2021, there were 26,354 traffic crashes in work zones in Texas alone, which resulted in 244 people being killed and another 856 suffering serious injuries. What's more, the number of overall crashes in work zones here in Texas increased by 18% last year. So behind me, you see 244 orange traffic cones and 244 pairs of white shoes representing the men, women, and children who were killed in construction work zones last year in 2021. 3 of the cones with the hard hats represent the 3 road construction maintenance workers that were also killed last year in work zone crashes. Speeding and driver inattention are the leading causes of work zone crashes. When people don't slow down and don't pay special attention in work zones, serious and often deadly crashes can and do occur. And it's not just the workers whose lives are at risk. In fact, last year, drivers and their passengers were the majority of the people who died in the Texas work zone crashes. That's why we're all here today, to urge drivers to be extra careful when traveling through our work zones on our Texas highways. So joining me here today, we have a distinguished list of guests and speakers, starting with TxDOT's Executive Director, Mark Williams. We have Sergeant Dion Cockrell from the Texas Department of Public Safety, and this initiative is very important to both of our agencies. We have Assistant Chief James Mason from the Austin Police Department, who is a vital partner with us in enforcing our laws. And I also want to recognize Greg Stevens, who is a maintenance supervisor right here in the TxDOT Austin District, to give us some personal insight on working on the roadways and with work zones. And we also have Captain Krista Stedman from the Austin Travis County EMS, who will give us a local perspective on promoting driver safety around work zones. So first, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Mark Williams, to talk about TxDOT's effort and encourage motorists to give our local roadway crews a break when they're on the road. Mark.
Thank you, Tucker, and thank you all for joining us here today. I'm Mark Williams, Executive Director of the Texas Department of Transportation, and I'd like to extend our appreciation to the members of law enforcement, our first responders that are here today represented with us as just part of this partnership that is so vital to achieving and improving safety within our work zone. And we're here today to bring attention to what's occurring on Texas's highways and to share actions Texas drivers should take, not only for their own safety, but also for the safety of our road workers. Every day, construction crews are actively working in our state to maintain and improve our roadways and to build new ones. At any time, there are as many as 3,100 active work zones across the Lone Star State. Sadly, not all drivers take the necessary precautions required when traveling through construction areas. As a result, we're seeing hundreds of preventable and deadly crashes in our work zones. The traffic cones and white shoes that you see behind me represent, as Tucker noted, the 244 lives that were lost in work zone crashes just last year, which was a 33% increase from the previous year, 33% higher. That spike in the number of deaths is unacceptable. Of these 244 fatalities, 195 were drivers or their passengers, 38 were pedestrians, 4 were bicyclists, and 3, as was noted, were road workers. These victims were fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, and friends. Our number one priority at TxDOT is the safety of both road workers and the traveling public. We take every precaution we can when setting up work zones so that every woman and man who is building and maintaining our roadways are protected. The unique conditions presented in work zones can be challenging for drivers to navigate. Drivers are likely to encounter concrete barriers, slow-moving heavy equipment, and vehicles that make sudden stops. For this reason, we're here today to remind drivers to be safe and drive smart when they encounter work zones. The important thing is that we're asking drivers, most importantly, to slow down and control their speed. It's never safe to drive 70 miles an hour when lanes are shifting and construction vehicles are in the areas, and highway conditions are not normal. It is especially important for drivers to stay focused. Motorists have to expect the unexpected, so focusing 100% on driving is crucial. We cannot stress enough the importance of drivers obeying signs and road crew flaggers, avoiding tailgating, and very importantly, putting away their phones. Think about this. When drivers send or read a text while driving, they often take their eyes off of the road for up to 5 seconds or more. At 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field blindfolded. Imagine the dangerous impact taking those actions could have in work zones. Plus, as the law enforcement representatives here today will remind you, it's against the law to text and to drive here in Texas. Rear-end collisions are the most common type of work zone crashes. By following these simple and effective safety tips like slowing down, staying alert, and leaving plenty of room in front of you, these kinds of crashes can be prevented. We encourage everyone to plan ahead, allow a little extra time, and even find an alternate route around congested work zone areas. You can also show your support for work zone safety by wearing orange on Wednesday, April the 13th, as part of Go Orange Day. By wearing orange next Wednesday, you can show your support for our road workers and honor the families of those victims who have lost their lives in work zones. We've all seen the orange "Give Us a Break" road signs. Please take these signs to heart and do what they say when you approach a work zone. Lives depend on it. Thank you again for joining us today. Let's get home safely. Tucker?
Thank you, Mark. Next, I'd like to welcome recognize our next speaker, Greg Stevens. And Greg is one of our maintenance section supervisors right now and has a great perspective. After spending many years working on the roadways himself, he now oversees several crews on a daily basis to make sure they are safe and getting their job done. So I'd like to welcome Greg to give us perspective of a maintenance supervisor. Greg?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tucker. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me this morning. So I'm just one of thousands and thousands of road workers out there on the highways day in and day out. I've been doing this job a long time, and it's a big state. There's a lot of risk out there on the highway. There's a lot of work zones, as Mr. Williams said, and the work never stops. As I said, it's day and night. Sometimes it's 24/7. The highway never sleeps, you know. And I wanted to tag on to something that Mr. Williams had mentioned, is our partnership with law enforcement and other agencies that we work hand in hand with day and day, and how vital that is. It really is vital to us. And it brings a distant memory of mine from back in 2010 when I had an incident when I was helping a neighboring maintenance section. It was down in the San Marcos area on IH-35, and we were doing a hot mix asphalt paving operation, and we were working hand in hand with a contractor. So it was a combined effort on the job. And the off-duty law enforcement officer that was working in our closure that night, I guess he heard over the radio there was a high-speed chase coming our direction, and of course we had no idea. He jumped up and he got to us as quickly as he could to share the news with us, and it gave us just enough time to get out of the road, get somewhere safe, and avoid that errant driver. He came right through our work zone, right through our equipment, somehow avoided everyone and all the equipment. It was an extremely close call, and it was very, very sobering experience, to say the least. And very fortunate that we all got to go home that day. Very fortunate for that officer for giving us the heads up. Otherwise, it could have been a different story. But that's just one of the many challenges that we face. Law enforcement, everyone that works on the highways, is we never know what's coming our way. We have a job to do. So there's so many things to focus on, and so many channels we got to work through to get our job done. But the roles that everyone plays out on the highway and our partnering agencies is very crucial. So I just encourage everyone to stay off your phones, please, and let us do our jobs and let us go home safely to our families at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Greg. And you've heard many comments from Greg and Mark previously of just the risks and the hazards of our folks working in work zones. But unfortunately, not everyone is motivated by concerns of their own safety or of those around them. And, maybe the threat of getting a ticket is the motivator that they really need to slow down and pay attention to our work zones. In that vein, we really appreciate the law enforcement partnerships we have. And our next speaker to give us some comments from that angle is Sergeant Dion Cockrell from the Texas Department of Public Safety. Sergeant.
First, I'd like to thank everybody for having us. On behalf of the Texas Department of Public Safety, I am pleased to share our support on behalf of the Be Safe, Drive Smart campaign and its efforts and its work zone awareness efforts. I cannot express enough the appreciation we feel for the thousands of road workers who tirelessly do their jobs to build and maintain the streets and highways we rely on. Their work comes with many risks. At DPS, we know what that's like. Troopers work on a daily basis just a few feet away from speeding traffic. When they stop drivers for a traffic violation, oftentimes we do so on the side of a busy roadway. Troopers and road crews are often on dangerous roadside situations. That's why the state passed the Move Over, Slow Down law intended to protect first responders and roadside workers. Unfortunately, troopers and road crews will likely tell you that not everyone is aware of this important law. The law requires drivers to move over one lane when they see a law enforcement or emergency vehicle, utility truck, tow truck, or TxDOT vehicle with activated lights stopped on the road. If the driver is unable to move over, they are required to slow down to at least 20 miles an hour below the posted speed limit. If they do not, they could face fines up to $2,000. State troopers routinely monitor work zones on highways. Traffic fines double when there are signs posted and there are workers present. So we ask people to stay alert and slow down and always follow the posted work zone speed limits. We encourage all drivers to follow the law, slow down and pay attention. Your safety and the workers that are out there building and maintaining the roads are the ones we depend on to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Sergeant Cockrell, for being listed today and DPS's commitment to keeping our workers and our motorists safe. Since we are in Austin and many of our work zones you can see around are happening within our city, we also appreciate a great partnership with the Austin Police Department. And with us today is Assistant Chief James Mason to talk about the partnership that TxDOT enjoys with the City of Austin.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having us here today. We really appreciate the partnership and look forward to continuing our partnership with everybody. I've asked to share a short story, kind of similar to what Greg had just talked about. There was a crash here that occurred in Austin, and a driver had left the roadway. They went driving through the construction zone at a high rate of speed, and unfortunately, this person did hit one of the workers that was there. That worker died there on scene. What makes this a really impactful story is the fact that their brother watched their brother die at the scene. They were also a worker. So please put down your phones. The text, phone call, it can wait till later. Pay attention to what you're doing. Everybody wants to go home just like what we're doing, like what you're doing, and we want to make sure everybody's safe. So, and like Sergeant said, if you see flashing lights, any flashing lights, please move over, slow down, and pay attention to what you're doing, and let everybody go home and have a safe and peaceful enjoyment with their family. Thank you all for letting us be here today.
Thank you, Chief. And you know, all of us here in Austin can just look around and see the amount of work zones and traffic issues that we have here in the area, and there's just a tremendous amount of road construction happening and will be in the foreseeable future. One of our other partners, the Austin Travis County Emergency Management System, is another one of the that we have a great relationship with, and many times they are called to respond to crashes in work zones. So I'd like to invite Captain Krista Stedman to the podium to share her experiences.
Good morning, and thank you, Tucker. As he said, my name is Captain Krista Stedman with Austin Travis County EMS. I appreciate the opportunity to be with everyone today to speak on behalf of not only Austin Travis County EMS, but all of our local first responders. Road construction is a constant in the city of Austin and Travis County, and that's why we all must be safety-minded when we drive through work zones. First responders are not immune to the dangers posed working on the side of the road. Both Austin Travis County EMS, Austin Fire Department, and the Austin Police Department have had our apparatus hit while working on the side of the road. Some of those were very close calls. Last year in the city of Austin, there were 571 crashes in work zones that resulted in 7 fatalities and 19 critical injuries. We've seen many work zone related crashes along major highways in Austin, I-35, 290, both east and west, FMs 2222 and 620, state highways 71, 45, and 130, as well as many other highly traveled major thoroughfares. Overall, we had 111 fatal collisions in 2021. Of those, that resulted in 120 fatalities. That compares to 93 fatalities in 2020. That's an additional 27 lives lost on our roadways and a 22.5% increase in fatal crashes in 1 year's time. These victims are our families, our mothers, our fathers, our children, our colleagues, and ourselves. This issue is particularly personal for me, intensely personal, as I lost my mother less than 1 year ago as the result of a preventable collision. National Work Zone Awareness Week provides us the perfect opportunity to remind and reinforce drivers of all the simple steps that we can take to reduce work zone crashes. Slow down and always follow posted work zone speed limits. Pay attention. As my colleagues have mentioned, workers and heavy equipment may be only a few feet from passing vehicles at high speeds. Put the phone down. Distracted driving contributes to an unconscionable amount of collisions each year, and nobody's life is worth a text message or a social media scroll. Don't tailgate other drivers. You never know when the person in front of you may stop unexpectedly. Obey all road crew flaggers and road signs, and expect the unexpected. Work zone crashes can be prevented if drivers follow these simple steps. Emergency workers and roadside crews are working to make our roads and our community better and safer for you all. Please give us the space to do our jobs. Move over, slow down whenever you're approaching work crews, law enforcement vehicles, ambulances, fire apparatus, or any vehicle with flashing lights. The construction cones and white shoes that are on display here behind me represent real people who lost their lives in preventable crashes. Preventable crashes. This did not have to happen. These lives did not have to be lost. Their families will mourn them every day and always will. Please be safe and drive smart when entering and driving through a work zone or where any emergency crews are working. Our lives depend on it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Captain Stedman, and thanks to all of our speakers for being here today and sharing experiences with us. But you're not just speakers, you're our partners in this effort, and we really appreciate the partnership. As we close out today, please remember the thousands of dedicated workers who strive every day to maintain and keep our highways safe. But it's not only our workers at TxDOT and our contractor partners, but it's also our agency partners who are patrolling these roadways each and every day along with us. Their lives depend on the actions of drivers, and so does yours. Work zone crashes are absolutely preventable. When drivers control their speed, give driving their full attention, obey the signs and flaggers and traffic control devices that we place on every one of our projects, the chance of a life-threatening crash significantly decreases. So I thank you for being here today and helping us spread this most important safety message. This concludes our press conference this morning. Thank you for attending, and we will be happy to conduct one-on-one interviews after we are finished. Thank you.